guys ain't tired, are you?
Yes.
We ain't done yet. We are not done. Yeah. All right. I hope you guys can perk up for a minute, okay? Do you guys enjoy these retreats?
Yes.
Like, do you guys want to keep having retreats? Most of y'all probably don't know this, but these retreats have been going on for a while. Like, the early days of what became these retreats actually goes back over 10 years. And it all started with me and your next speaker, Mr. Matt Parker. And it's been a while, hasn't it? But a little while. But I hope you guys are ready. Because I always enjoy it when my brother gets up here. And Matt's always got something real special to say, and I know he's going to say it with you guys in mind because he doesn't waste words here. So I hope you guys are listening. I hope you guys are ready for this. And please give a warm welcome to Mr. Matt Parker.
Okay. So, the reason that we have this theme, Conversations at the Well, it comes from a story in John chapter 4, where Jesus went out of his way to go through Samaria. It's a place that most people went out of their way to avoid, but Jesus went there specifically to have a conversation with a Samaritan woman. And it was not a fun conversation. Jesus brought up a lot of things that she was probably embarrassed about. He brought up her past and her past relationships and things like that, but it was a needed conversation. He wanted to let her know that he knew her fully, mistakes and all, but still fully loved her. And it changed her life. She went from an outcast in that society to an evangelist, bringing people to meet Jesus, who told her everything that she had ever done. With that in mind, what I have to talk to you about tonight is not a fun topic, but it's a needed one. And it's my hope that lives are changed, and that you too will know that you are fully known and fully loved by the same Savior. I want to start with something that Jesus said in John 16. He says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. This verse gives us hope, right? But notice Jesus doesn't promise us an easy path. He acknowledges the reality of pain. In fact, he kind of assures it. But he doesn't say what kind of pain or what kind of trouble will come. But I want you to know that he knows your pain. He knows your struggles. The struggles we face in this life will not be the end of the story. It may be a tough chapter, but the story goes on. But then again, sometimes our struggles do have the final say. Sometimes it's too much to bear. Sometimes we don't get to see how God brings good from a bad situation. Some people don't realize that there is a process, and they end their story early. When we only focus on the bad that's around us, and let's face it, in today's culture, in today's world, there's a lot of bad around us. If that's all we focus on, it can spiral into depression. Now, sometimes that comes from just focusing on the wrong things. Sometimes that comes from a chemical imbalance in our brains. Sometimes it's both, right? But either way, We can all agree depression's a very real and destructive force in our culture. People of all ages are struggling under the weight of it in alarming and overwhelming numbers, like the statistics that Jake shared with us just a little bit ago. And what's crazy about the statistics that Jake showed us is that those are just the ones that are accounted for. Those are just the ones that have been diagnosed. There's a lot of us that we haven't been diagnosed, so we're not part of that statistics, right? But many of you struggle or have struggled or know somebody who struggles with depression. And many of you are struggling against terrible, unthinkable situations. And when that happens, our enemy chooses that time to come to us and lie to us. Many of you have believed the lie that there is no hope, that things will never change, that things will never get better. You've believed the lie that your family and friends would be better off without you, that you're just a burden to them. You've believed the lie that the only way for your pain to end is death. Let me emphasize the most important part of what I just said is the word lie. None of that's true, okay? But I want to tell you a story about my friend, Ike Neff. He's unlike anybody I've ever known. He was kind, creative, talented, genuine. He was always unashamedly himself, no matter what. Truly one of a kind. You can see here, he was really good at playing guitar. He was part of him and his siblings had a band together that he would play with. He always liked working with wood, but he hated using power tools. He would always just use regular old tools. Here's some of the stuff that he made, these hairpins and stuff like that. That's difficult to make without power tools, right? I just want to point that out. He would give you the shirt off of his back and the shoes off of his feet. Not only because he wanted to help you, but also he really just liked being shirtless and barefoot all the time. He was the youngest of 4 siblings. Truly a beautiful family who love God, who serve him with everything they have. I got to watch Ike grow up in our church. December 31st, 2019. At this time, Ike was a sophomore in college. He was 19 years old. We were having a New Year's lock-in for the youth. And Ike came up to me and volunteered to help. I wasn't even asking for volunteers. I didn't think anybody was crazy enough for something like that. But he said he wanted to come. I said, "Are you sure about that? Do you know what you're signing up for?" And he said, "Yeah." So he came, and we had a great time. He was a big help. By the way, in some of these pictures, you might recognize some faces. Colin Smitherman, Parker Janus, Jack Bush. I think this is Bella. There's Holly. Joshua Squires, Jackson Crane, Colton Squires. The next morning, after cleanup, any of you who have ever had a lock-in, you know what a big deal it is for the cleanup afterwards. Ike stayed all night. He even stayed and helped us clean up. So Alicia and I thanked him for helping. We gave him a big hug. I didn't know at the time that was going to be the last time I saw him. Later that month, it was January 22nd, 2020. This is his sister Summer. They were both going to OCU. It was Summer's birthday, so they went out to celebrate. Ike went out with Summer and a few of her friends. They had ice cream. They had a great time. They made great memories, and that night everybody went to bed thinking everything was fine. The next day, starting around 6 a.m., we started getting calls about Ike. and each one got progressively worse information. But Alicia and I tried our best to stay hopeful. The first thing we were told at 6 a.m. was that he was found unresponsive in his dorm room. And Alicia said, "Does that mean he's dead?" And I said, "No. Unresponsive means that he can respond, he just isn't." A few hours later, we were told that he died, but we weren't told how. We weren't told what happened. So we thought maybe he had a heart attack, right? Maybe it was an aneurysm, or maybe he had cancer and we just never knew. Later that day, we were told he committed suicide. But still, as hard as it was, we tried to stay hopeful. We thought, maybe that was an accident too. Maybe he took too much Advil for a headache or something like that. Or maybe he took something that he thought was Advil. Maybe somebody gave it to him. Then we were told that he hung himself in his dorm room. And that stings. That one stung then, it still stings now, because it pulled the rug right out from under us. It wasn't cancer, it wasn't a heart attack, it wasn't an accidental overdose or anything like that. It was no mistake. It was the truth that we were trying to avoid. I committed suicide. And our hope was like a candle under a wet blanket, extinguished. And the question that we kept asking, and still keep asking, why? Why would he do this? Why did he believe this was the answer? Why did he believe there was no hope? Why didn't he reach out for help? This was a tough one. Why didn't God stop him? Why? 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 The next Sunday, his family came to church. If it was me, I probably would have waited about a month or so, but they came to church because they wanted to be with their family. And everyone held their breath. We wanted to be there for them. But honestly, what can you say to a mother and father who have lost their child like this? What do you say to a brother or sister who's had to go through something like this? There's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is hug them and cry with them and hurt with them and wish things were different. His family was devastated, understandably. They still are. 5 years later, they struggle with this loss. Ike's birthday is always going to be a painful reminder every year that he's not here anymore. Summer's birthday is always going to be different for the rest of her life. There's always going to be a shadow, a memory, a loss for the rest of her life. Holidays, even with all of the busyness and the seeing family and all of the celebrations and new traditions, there's still going to be a sadness because they're going to remember that he's gone. His nieces and nephews are never going to get to meet Uncle Ike and realize how cool he would have been as an uncle. Don't want to make it about us, but it's hard for Alicia and I as well. We remember him at the most random times. Or anytime somebody talks about depression or suicidal thoughts or anything that's remotely similar, all of it gets brought back up to the surface. But I'll tell you this, it never gets easier. It never goes away. You kind of just have to learn to focus on different things. But the sadness, the pain, wondering why, it's all still very real. Now, why am I telling you this? I don't want to bring you down. I don't want your sympathy or anything like that. But I want to show you the other side of this. Suicide doesn't get rid of the pain. It multiplies it. And it transfers to the people that you care about. The ones who care about you. And that pain will affect everything they do from here on out. It hurts people. It's messy. It's ugly. It's heartbreaking. And you never stop missing them. You never stop wondering if there was something else you could have done. Something you could have said. Or another way that you could have helped. There's nothing glorious about it. There's nothing peaceful about it. It robs peace from the people that you care about. The people that care about you. Even people that don't know you, but they know the people that are hurting, and they're trying to be there for them and pick up the pieces. Okay? 5 years later, we still struggle with this. And the hardest part is wondering why. Why he was strong enough to put himself through all of that, but not strong enough to reach out for help. And the hard part is maybe he did and we just missed it. The truth is we'll never know. Not that knowing would make it hurt any less. For whatever reason, Ike couldn't see an end to the pain. He didn't realize there was a process to these sorts of things. What felt like the end to him, it didn't have to be. It could have just been the middle. And so I bring you back to John 16:33. I have told you these things, this is Jesus speaking, so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Jesus offers us peace. He offers us hope, not in the absence of trouble, in the presence of himself. The process isn't random. It's his process, right? He has overcome what we're walking through, and he's waiting for us on the other side. All throughout Scripture, you see this pattern of suffering, of people, godly people going through painful situations. God allows his people to go through suffering. Jesus, his perfect son, also suffered. Right? So that tells us that suffering isn't a punishment for sin. It must be doing something else. It must be for another purpose. Right? What can we learn from this? Why does God allow suffering? I thought he loved me. There is always a purpose to our pain. Pain is meant to teach us, to train us, to mold us. It's never meant to just be mean or to watch you squirm. God shapes us through suffering. Through discipline, through perseverance. Pain isn't pointless. It's purifying. It doesn't make it any easier. In fact, that's the reason that so many people don't believe in God. They struggle to understand why a good God would allow suffering. These are three things to remember. This is kind of a mini sermon within the lesson, right? If this is something that you're struggling to understand, or if you know somebody who's struggling to understand, these are three things to remember. Right? Number one, God gave humans free will. And what did we do with it? We chose sin. We chose selfishness. We chose injustice. And that caused our world to be broken. People want to blame God for that. It's our fault. Number two, the world is not the way it was created. Because of sin, the world is broken. There's disease, there's natural disasters, death, decay. All of that entered because of the fall of humanity. Number three, maybe most importantly in this to remember, God also suffered. He doesn't just understand pain, he felt it. Right? He walked through it for you. He took on flesh, walked through betrayal, grief, torture, and death for you. And God did all of that to undo the mess that we made of his world. So the things that we go through aren't meant to break us, they're meant to build us up. It can be hard to see through the pain sometimes, but you have to believe and trust that God is in complete control and that he has a purpose for your situation. Right? Paul says it this way in Romans 5:3-5. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame. So suffering isn't the end, it's the start of a chain reaction that leads to hope. Everything God allows you to go through has something to teach you, to grow in you, or to burn away from you. God's correction, his discipline, they're all part of this refining process. It produces a harvest of righteousness and peace. It's not punishment. It's not torture. It's formation and training. Daniel gave me this phrase in the topic. The prize is in the struggle. You talk about a hard lesson to learn, but an important one, right? Because we often think that the prize, the reward, is at the end, right? It's winning, it's the grade, the acceptance letter, the relationship, the finished product. But the prize is what you're learning and building towards on the way there. Struggle isn't obstacles, it's an opportunity. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Faith doesn't grow without pressure. Gold isn't refined without fire. You can't become who you were meant to be without struggle. And as I was looking at that, I found this really interesting verse in Malachi chapter 3. It says, "For he will be like a refiner's fire or a launderer's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver." And so, as I was looking into this, because what does that mean, right? A silversmith holds the silver over the middle of the fire where the flames are the hottest. Why? To burn off the impurities. But he doesn't just set it there and walk away. He has to watch it closely. He doesn't take his eye off of it for a second, because if it stays in there too long, it can be damaged. So then the question is, how does he know when it's fully refined? When he can see his image in it. When he can see his reflection in it. So when we're over the fire, God isn't absent. He's watching. The fire may be painful, but it's a process of removing impurities until you reflect him, until he sees his image in you. He doesn't let you walk through fire for no reason. Even what the enemy meant for harm, God uses for healing, for strength. You're going to face struggle, but Jesus has overcome the world. So you can trust that this process, even the painful parts, has a purpose. And finally, point number 3, it's not a mental battle, it's a spiritual one. As I got to thinking about this, I realized it's so easy for us to miss the point. It's so easy for us to question God's goodness while we're suffering. Why are we so quick to assume that we're a burden to somebody else, that no one cares, that no one would miss us, that nothing will ever change or get better? And it's because I believe our enemy whispers lies to us all day long, every day. Right? If you look here at 1 Peter 5, 8 and 9, he says, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings." I think many of us would do a lot better if we would stop believing his lies. Because notice, even the Bible is aware of how many people are suffering because of his lies, because of what he's doing. See, our enemy wants to discourage us. He wants to isolate us. He wants to destroy us. Sometimes he roars. Sometimes he wants to scare us, but sometimes he whispers. You don't matter. No one will miss you. You'll never change. You're too messed up and dirty for God to fix. You don't belong to Jesus. You belong to me. Your friends don't like you. They tolerate you. They're just being nice. Your family's embarrassed of you. His lies are strongest when we're alone. Y'all understand that? You see, I think this was Ike's problem. He isolated himself. if he had taken time to compare notes with other people, what he was thinking, what he was feeling, I think he would have noticed that he would have realized he's not alone. He would have realized that everyone was going through, maybe not the same thing, but similar enough. But he believed the lies of the enemy because he was in isolation. His lies are strongest when we're alone, but you're not alone. You're part of a whole family of believers around the world fighting the same fight. Which means depression, anxiety, comparison, envy, hopelessness, they're not just bad moods. They're part of a spiritual battle. They're spiritual missiles launched at you in order to prevent you from reaching your full potential. You're not weak. You're in a war. Stand firm. Stand together. You know, that verse in 1 Peter said that the enemy is like a lion. And if you look at the way that lions hunt, they're not interested in a fair fight. They're patient. They're willing to wait. They play the long game. Lions go for the prey that is isolated, that's distracted, that's vulnerable, that may be one that's injured. This is why church is so important. This is why you surround yourself with community. It's why we can't isolate when we're struggling. The enemy wants to divide. God wants to defend. When you really think about it, this is kind of a silly example. I think maybe we need a laugh at this point, right? Satan really is just a man in a cop costume who's trying to arrest you. He doesn't have any actual authority. He just has lies. You know, when you think about it, he didn't come at Eve with a gun. He came at her with lies. The armor of God begins with the belt of truth because the enemy comes at us with lies. But his lies lose their power when we stop believing them. See, he can't change our standing with God, but he can get us to doubt it. He can distract us from it. He can convince us that he's not our enemy. But if we stop listening to his voice, if we stop believing his lies, he has no power over us. And you might think, I might need some help with that. You're in the right place. You're not alone. You're not a burden. You don't have to suffer in silence. So many others are going through the exact same things. And you're surrounded, quite literally, right now in this moment, by brothers and sisters who not only want to help you through these thoughts, but honestly, they could probably use your help as well. So you think, I don't know, I don't really want to burden anybody with my problems. And if you think that, I want you to listen to what I'm about to say. And I want you to hear these words. I would give anything to be able to have this conversation with Ike. To be able to explain to him that he's not alone, to explain to him that he's listening to lies. I'd rather wake up in the middle of the night and be there for him when he's struggling than go through the pain of knowing he didn't think there was any other way. And any of us in this room would too. Okay? I want you to, this sounds silly, but I really want you to do this. I want you to look around this room. I want you to look into each other's eyes. You're not a mistake. You're not a burden. And you are more than your lowest moment. Now let me give you some hope, because I know this has been heavy. It won't always be like this. God has promised that he will make things right again, back to his original creation. When you get to the end of the book, this is what it says. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain. For the old order of things has passed away. So one day God will erase suffering. But for right now, he uses it to draw you closer, to shape you, to reveal himself in ways that comfort never could. And yes, we're in a battle. Yes, you're going to have to go through some bad situations, but you'll come out better and stronger on the other side of it. And you may get some scars along the way. But hear this as well. Scars are proof that you're stronger than what you've been through. Your scars can be used to help others. This is another idea that Daniel gave me where Jesus does this very thing. See, after Jesus died on the cross, after he resurrected, he still had his scars. He could have healed them. He could have covered them up. But he goes out of his way to show them to his disciples, especially Thomas. Because Jesus saw the value in bearing the marks of what he went through. It proved that he really is who he says he is. So, I'll leave you with two final requests. Number one, if you're struggling, please find help. Text someone, call someone, FaceTime someone, whatever you need. Don't go through anything alone. Don't choose to isolate no matter what's going on. You matter. Okay, you aren't defined by how you feel. Don't let how you feel dictate what you do. Okay? And this is another side note. You can have this one for free. If you need something like medicine or therapy to make up the difference, there's no shame in that. Do you shame people for going to the hospital? No, I see absolutely no difference. Number two, be on the lookout for people who are struggling. Maybe people who are acting differently than they normally do. People who you know are going through tough times, and be there for them. Don't hover over them, don't make it weird. Just say, hey, I'm here for you if you want to talk. I love you. I care about you. I'm praying for you. And I want to end exactly where we started. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world.